Hey, and welcome to the first podcast ever. I don't know how this is going to go, but we're going to try it and see what happens. I would love to have an ongoing podcast at some point, and not just for our number one fan and fellow Nerd Company member, Jesse, but actually so I could get another platform just to speak my mind and have people come and criticize me for thinking the way I do. But I would love to be able to hear all your guys' opinions, and since this is just another way that I can speak to you guys, whether you're on the way to work in your car or you're at work and just wondering if you could have something to listen to, and you just can't get enough of that amazing, sexy voice that is Stuart. Now, obviously, as you guys can probably guess, since this is my first thing, I don't have very many topics, and I would love for you guys to write in about topics that I should talk about. But for the most part, I'm going to do something that people have been asking about. Now, as you've seen on the channel, whenever we get like a bunch of questions, I send them to Ryan, and I'm like, Ryan, what do you think? And he'll make a video and answer your questions for you. Now, the other portion of our questions we get, and to be honest, it's not very many because, we have a small fan base, but, I appreciate every one of you, but is asking about me. And normally I'll just send them a very quick message over Twitter or sometimes even YouTube when they send me direct messaging. But this is going to be a podcast explaining a bit about my history. Okay, as you guys can probably guess, and you can probably hear in the accent, I am from Australia. Both parents were Australian. I was not born here though. I was actually born in Malaysia. Yes, Kuala Lumpur. I spent a good portion of my life over there before moving back with my parents and where we moved to was a very small country town. I grew up in the small and wonderful town of Warwick, and that's where I spent most of my childhood. Due to the profession of my father, we had to move around a bit, so I have lived in New Zealand for 1 year on both islands. So that is 1 year on the North Island, where I lived in Hamilton, and 1 year on the South Island, where I lived in Christchurch. And, look, if I was to break kayfabe of the channel, I would say that New Zealand is a very pretty country, and even though it's probably not, I don't plan on going on a holiday back there anytime soon, since I pretty much saw all I needed to see in those 2 years, respectively. It is definitely a nice country. All right, so when did I actually? One of the questions I get is, when did I meet certain people, and whether it's like, how did you meet Ryan, or how did you meet Jesse, or how did you? I'm sorry, Jesse. No one's actually asked me how I met you, but I'm going to find a way to somehow make you feel special. I'm going to take a drink of this wonderful iced coffee. Ah, that's better. Okay, and I'm going to answer everybody's question and say I first met up with Nerd Company when I was in high school, and that's where I met most of these guys. Year 8. I came to high school, but it wasn't until like year 9 or so where everybody I spoke to in individual classes decided to hang out in the same area. And pretty much we all, got to know each other that way. And with a few exceptions, everybody that I met in high school has appeared on the channel in one form or another. But yeah, so that's pretty much how we came together. Strange enough, we met through the least. Some of us met through the least likely of things for me, in the fact that I used to play sport, and I am terrible at sport. Everybody knows this. This is why I gained the profession and title of nerd. But we actually started playing football, and we played football, and that's soccer to our American fans, and we played that on the oval during morning tea and lunch, and that's how I met a couple of people like Juggernaut, and to a degree even Mr. El Rayon himself. But yeah, so playing sport. Who would have thought a whole bunch of nerds would meet each other through sport? Right. Now, I'm addicted to this iced coffee, so I'm going to continue drinking it for quite a while. So I'm sorry if there's a lot of breaks in my speech. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm passionate about, and I would love to pose this question to you guys. Next week, I would like to do a talk about whatever you guys choose, and so I can delve deeper into the history of that. And later on, I'll try and get either Chris or Ryan to come and join on the podcast themselves, and well, we'll see how they go. But because of everyone's work schedule, it's hard to try and find a time where people can all hang out. And so even on Monday these days, which we used to do the Nerd Company Plays videos just for behind the scenes stuff, due to changes in work schedules, hardly anyone can show up anymore. So that's why you don't get those ridiculous cuts of fighting games, because not only that, but geez, the first time we did one of those videos was like 2011, I think, and I can't remember when I put it up on the channel, but I think it was definitely 2011, because we've always been meeting since high school for one day to play fighting games. But I decided to introduce the rest of the group into things that were not Street Fighter, so to speak, because for the most part we played a crap ton of Street Fighter, and of course when Street Fighter 4 came out, like Matt and I, who were the main Street Fighter guys, we just played ages and like so many matches of that. Like it would be nothing but Bison Seth. And then when Super Street Fighter 4 came out, we had, some other characters that we decided to branch out on, because the Bison Seth matchup was just, we knew everything about each other. So it would just be this like weird match of like, oh, he'll do this and this and this and blah blah blah. And so then our play got progressively worse to try and confuse the other person. It was really this amazing sort of de-evolution just to try and confuse the opponent. But yeah, and then it was around Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition where people like Jesse, Ryan, and even Makka and Chris, they got it more serious. You see, Makka had played, Street Fighter 2 with Akuma beforehand, and he dabbled in Street Fighter 4, but it was really arcade where Oni came in that he received like the inspiration to sit down and practice for a long time. Now, yeah, and anyway, to get back to my point, the reason we don't do these Nerd Company Plays things anymore is because we've played a lot of fighting games, and the whole reason that I personally think made the videos so great was the fact that half the guys in the group did not know what the fuck to do. Like they would sit there and be like, what is the punch button? What is the kick button? What is the motion to do? I have no idea. And so you'd get this thing where people would just be like, what the fuck is this game? And it would be this massive clusterfuck of entertainment. And I'd just cut it up with the like shitty camera that I had at the time, and well, still have. But and it would just make for them like this hilarious experience. But now, because everybody knows so much about fighting games, because I've gone back with these guys and tried to educate them about things like the Marvel style of fighters, or SNK fighters, or 3D fighters and whatnot. And we've got such a broad understanding of various different fighting games that are, for the most part, people you can get into the game, and the only thing that you can really comment on is like the design of the characters. And once that's over and done with, unless there's some miraculous hype thing that gets pulled off, there's not really that much. Now, the reason we're still hope for like the Marvel games, and that's because a majority of our group hates Marvel. When I say hang on a sec. Oh man, I am a sucker for iced coffee. But the reason I say that Marvel games still have a chance is because for the most of the group we dislike Marvel, and we have preferences for other companies, whether they be Image, DC, or Vertigo, which I do realize has been bought by DC, but nah, whatever. And there are people just like Matt who doesn't actually like comic books, and so when we get into a Marvel game, we get to laugh at how stupid things are, and there's only one person. And if you saw a certain week of that we had recently, you'll know who that person is with all their American paraphernalia and bullshit. But they're the person that loves Marvel in our group. So it's a fun dynamic of how everyone's completely laughing and shitting on this, concept of Marvel, and then there's one person avidly trying to defend it and explain it, and it's like, it's good. And so, if I had to, once again, guys, podcast breaking kayfabe. I don't actually hate all of Marvel. There are quite a few characters that I think are good, but for the most part, I dropped Marvel when I was younger. I'm just like, I had enough. There was a whole bunch of things that I was reading at the time, and I'll get into this at a later date if you guys choose comics to be my next week thing. There are a few characters that I actually like and that I still, take a look at to this day, but I don't pick up any issues of Marvel these days. I just gave up. Once again, I'll explain more if you guys choose comics in future. But yeah, it's not that we all completely. We don't just hate it. Sometimes we just go to the next level just to try and be entertaining for you guys. Um, right. So what else? What have I got coming up? Uh, there's a couple of things that I've been meaning to do. Once I can get some money together, because shit, I'm currently doing this job and their pay is not so great, but it's pay nonetheless. But once I get some money together and I finish paying for my food, I will try and get a Wii U capture card, and maybe even an older capture card too, like PlayStation 2 or the regular Wii. Just because there's a whole bunch of games that I would love to try out, and there's a bunch of games that I would love Chris, Ryan, Makka, even Matt and Jesse. I really, really want Matt to come back, because I love what he brings to the channel and the dynamic that he and I have. And I would love to get Jesse in on this at some time. I've got a couple of ideas. I knew a few years ago we tried a one shot of Azuric Rise of Parathia, which, if anyone knows what that game is, I feel sorry for you because Jesus Christ, it has been a long time since I've legitimately thought that they just left a game unfinished. But oh man, we tried that, and the thing is, I lost the footage to that, and it's one of those things where uh, I have two computers, multiple hard drives, and I have the editing on one computer, and I have just personal computer for my little crappy laptop, and I use the personal computer to check out internet, do the posting of the videos, blah blah blah. But for my editing computer, it is like a clusterfuck of like 2 terabytes almost of just fucking folders everywhere, and I don't organize them well. And the worst fucking thing is because of the very crappy capture cards that I use for either PC, like when we do arcade games, or for Xbox, because of the crappy capture cards that I've chosen. And I'm not going to name them because they don't deserve the exposure, but because of that, sometimes the files just fucking choose to get corrupted, and like Walking Dead, for example, and even The Punisher, which really put me in a bind. Like you guys will notice that if you saw the Ryan Week Punisher episode 2, that halfway through I had to literally just grab a camera and film because I had like less than an hour or something left to try and upload a video, and YouTube at that time was already being like very iffy, saying no, we're not, letting people from Australia do it today because there's like an update on the AU YouTube, and I was like, crap. But yeah, because the capture footage got like corrupted, I had to just film like with my handheld camera the footage, and I had to hope for the best, that because it had a chance of shutting down at any moment, and it shut down twice. It shut down twice for both parts of it, but I managed to get a full, and hopefully, if I did my job properly, you won't even realize that I've started, filming again. But yeah, it's just a lot of work, and there's a lot of guessing and hoping that something happens. So, for example, Walking Dead, there's a whole bunch of that. That's like not just but what am I trying to say? The capture footage, but the audio of Chris and I, and it just gets completely mangled. So I've got to get some better equipment, but it because I hate doing that. It's not something that I set out to do when I'm like, okay, we'll make a pilgrimage and then the pilgrimage stops. The whole point is to try and finish the thing. And so when things like Walking Dead and it's stuck on a certain episode, I'm like 6 or something. I can't remember, to be honest. And I have the rest of our like footage there, and some of it's corrupted, and some of the audio is corrupted. And so just when you have something like that, you're like, damn it, because there's nothing you can do. Um, oh, there's something I thought of. The whole reason that I decided to be the Nerd Pilgrim, because I used to, yeah, what? Okay, I'm gonna be very, true to you guys at the moment. So I'm sorry if this is too heavy, but the reason we're like the Nerd Pilgrim is because the term pilgrimage is a journey. I wanted you guys to come on a journey with me and experience the journey of the video game, or the journey of just entertainment. And if we're going to be like, once again, real, the journey of my life. I wanted to try and, make content for you guys up until the eventual day that I pass from this world because my immortality fades off. Um, and I want to have this entire library of people that can just follow me on this journey through life and have the same experiences that I do as I have them. And hopefully we can share like the entertainment medium together. And I would love if I made you guys smile or entertained you even slightly in this pilgrimage that we're on. So that's why I'm called like the Nerd Pilgrim. And hopefully you guys will be able to see me go from the humble beginnings of just making the Nerd Company Plays videos with just like a whole bunch of laughter of us, just shaking the camera up and down, and to modern day of where I'm trying to do actual playthroughs, and even further where it's like we have a whole bunch of people coming in, but we've still got the standard camera just filming the TV. Hopefully, you'll be able to see it like evolve into such a state where it's like my dream would be like to have 720p, because I think that's the only one that YouTube supports for like capture. 720p gameplay of perfect capture card quality with a perfect microphone feeding in so that you don't get the shoddy voice that you might be hearing now. I'm not sure. I'll try and edit it up a bit for you guys, but I would love to be able to do that. And so hopefully you guys will be able to see my journey from the start, the humble beginnings, to a relatively good channel in the future. But enough of me, trying to talk to you guys about future aspirations, because one of the things anyone in our group will tell you is that I am a dreamer. I will sit down and be like, whoa, we should start a fucking, pilgrimage of this. And everyone will be like, oh, okay, dude, but that's a very slow paced game. And, I don't know what you want. But I'm like, no, let's fucking do it now. And so, like, we'll literally just drop whatever we're doing, and I'll just set up something. Like, for example, the Mad World thing was literally just me going, hey, Ryan, let's just fucking sit down and play Mad World right now because I fucking love that game. And we only got to 3 parts because there was like a whole bunch of complications, and, you know, uh, I had to move and I had to change jobs around that time to another thing, and so we just stopped. But I do plan on getting back to that. In fact, hopefully, after you hear this, there will be a part 4 being edited by me, because I do want to finish that with Ryan. Um, but most part, since this is just a, all a behind the scenes, starting up podcast. The main thing that I would like to explain is the reason I pick certain people. I pick certain people for certain pilgrimages just because I am, mates with these guys and I know what their strengths are. So, for example, And all of the guys are gonna come to my house and just completely destroy me with like cricket bats and just fuck up my day pretty much. But if I was to be brutally honest about everyone, here are our strengths in the group. Um, uh, for me, I'm just your regular douchebag. I am jack of all trades. There's nothing I'm specifically good at, but there's nothing I'm specifically bad at. I try to, you know, provide some form of learning experience to the rest of our group. I try to expose them to all forms of media that they might not have thought of. And even when that's complete bullshit, as some of them say, and they hate what I expose them to, at least they know about it in the future. And we end up making a whole. Most of the fucking jokes we make about if they like, oh well, at least it's not as shit as this. That's usually at my expense because I showed them something, and I have to just sit there and grin and bear it because I fucked up in thinking that they'd like it. Um, but yeah, that's me. Jesse is completely comedic. He will bag the shit out of anyone, and it is such. You guys will not understand, but it is such a hilarious thing to see how his mind works. And so that's why I'd love to get him on the channel at some point to do a entire playthrough because he will just like. He will go to town on the game. So for things, people like Jesse, I would pick a shitty game because it would bring out the uh, the best traits that I would love for the video by having him do that. For people like Ryan, I usually try and pick a game that it's established as a series, and I try and slowly like pick a long series or something to ease him into other things because if I pick like the first thing of a series because I'm like, okay, I would like to do this series with Ryan. Um, he he and I have a great dynamic. I feel I really think that of all the people that come over and do it, I really like the way that Ryan and I just chill and you pretty much just shoot the shit and talk while we play games. And so if I ease him into the first game and if he doesn't like it, then I know that the rest of the series he won't like, and so we'll move on to something else. But things like Soul Calibur, we started with Soul Edge, and that's he's actually the best in our group at Soul Edge. So I was like, well, maybe he would like to see that Soul Calibur game. And as you guys heard it, he played it, and for the most part, he actually he didn't mind playing. I'm not going to say that he loved it, but he went away from recording sessions and he would be like, some days he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that was pretty like." I wouldn't say that was pretty great. He'd say that was fun, and there would be other days where like Fafnir the Dragon or Iska would just spend an hour talking and he'd be like, "You know what? Fuck that game. That is like one of the fucking worst games. I'm gonna go back to playing like Soul Legend." Would have a few matches in Soul Legend. He'd still kick the shit out of me with Rock or Hwan Sung Myung, which I don't think they ever brought back into any other game. But yeah. Now for Makka, um, I usually what do I do? I usually play. I make him the character that does the most damage, or there's a game where you can feel powerful because then we get this whole, try to one up each other mentality of like, oh, he did something cool, so I've got to do something cool, and then we try and, it's very sort of fun, competitive, and we're both, once again, 'cause since we're mates, we're not afraid to like take the piss out of each other, but so that's why we played something like Aliens, and just because like he loves gore and violence and stuff, so I bring him in to talk about that stuff because he has so much fun doing it, and it's like a different side, and he opens his personality more up to you guys when he's doing something that is fun. So I try and get like monster movies, and there's something coming up later on the channel because I completely bitched out for October and was like, you know what, let's try and do something Halloween related. So I've got a few videos coming up with Makka for the American Halloween holiday, even though Australia doesn't celebrate it. But as I said, I bitched out. Um, and for Matt is out of all of the people in our group, you've probably heard us joke about it, but he is the one guy that like you would be like, oh, okay. Let me tell you a story to try and illustrate my point. Matt was bored one day, and he was just like, "Oh man, I haven't played any good games in ages." And I was just like, "Oh, you want to play a good game?" And jokingly, I gave him like Ninja Gaiden for the Xbox. Now, I love that game, but I knew that it's a fucking bitch to finish, and I was just like, this will keep him going for like ages, and it will test him, and it will make him go, what the fuck is this? And hopefully, I'll have one of those things where it's like I finished the game, but Matt did not. Oh my god, was I fucking proved wrong? Like within a week, he comes back to the house and he gives me back Ninja Gaiden, and I'm just like, so how'd it go? How far'd you get? And he's just like, oh, I finished it. It was really good. And I was just fucking dumbfounded. Like I was just like, oh wow, cool. And he's just like, yeah, it was a bit difficult. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, when I was going through on the hardest difficulty, and then my fucking mind just exploded because he fucking, not only did he finish it on the regular difficulty, but he kept going until he'd finished it on the hardest difficulty that he could. And I was like, fuck. So then I was just like, oh yeah, yeah. Well, did you know that there was a second Ninja Gaiden? And that I haven't finished number two. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't get to finish this one either. So, and I know that a lot of people talk about it as being more difficult. So I'm like, well, here you go, Matt. Here's Ninja Gaiden 2. So I give it to him, and he's just like, oh, wow, awesome. And so he goes home, and fucking same thing happens. In a week, he posts on his Facebook, and he's just, uh, Juggernaut Matt had 1,000 gamer score achievements out of 1,000, and I'm just like, fuck. So not only did he finish the game on the hardest difficulty, but he went through individual times, individual playthroughs again, just using one weapon for that entire playthrough. And yeah, that's just how Matt is in our group. Like, he is always challenging himself to be better, and so the rest of us have this like weird, like almost worship of Matt in the fact that if we can't do something, we won't tell Matt, because if we tell Matt, he'll do it, and then he'll be like, "You guys are scrubs," and it's part of his charm. So with Matt, I had him on for Final Fight for the simple reason that he really liked playing Cody in Street Fighter, and so I was like, well, I'll show him where Cody came from, and because I like playing Guy in Street Fighter as well, even though I'm not too great as him, and so that's why we did that. But I've got a few plans in the future to do like difficult like playthroughs with Matt. Like we'll take a game and we'll put it on the hardest difficulty, and we'll see how Mr. Matt goes, and yeah, for Chris, as you guys can probably guess, there's a theme. Uh, Chris, he does not play video games. He bought an Xbox not because, for himself, but for his brother. And so he has an Xbox in his house, and he has dabbled in certain games because his brother has been like, "Hey, try these." But for the most part, he doesn't play. He goes to university now, and so he's pretty busy, and so he doesn't have the time for it. And I pick Chris for the sole reason that I know that he will be terrible. So for the reason, like, I'm like, hey, let's play Silent Hill. And so he played Silent Hill because one, I know that well, Silent Hill 1 isn't scary. It's more like a mind fuck. It's just like, what the fuck's going on? But for the control scheme, which I know would take him ages to get used to, and so I was like, this would be amazing to watch. And so even though I always make jokes about it, I'm like, oh, if you want to see shit quality, watch Silent Hill. It's not the content that makes it shit. It's the filming because once again, I have the shittiest camera, and I don't have money for capture quality, like capture cards or anything. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, so you can there's one or two episodes in there where it's like, I couldn't edit whatsoever. Like sometimes I can change the brightness down to try and make it look better for you guys, but there are some of them that are like fucking seizure worthy, and so like Ryan was just like, oh, I wanted to see what was up with you guys doing Silent Hill, so I took a look at this video and my fucking head hurt because I put it on full screen and I was like, is that the very video that I say don't put this on full screen? And he's like, yeah, well, I had to try. I'm like, you're an idiot. But yeah, I picked games like that because I'm like, Chris is he's going to be, since he's new to games and he's not that great, it's going to be amusing for the viewer. So it's going to be amusing for you guys. And like with Walking Dead, he had he had asked me like if the Walking Dead TV show was worth getting into, and I said, for the most part, I'd only read the comics before the show came out, so I was like, well, why don't we try this game? So we tried The Walking Dead, and oh man, I was just like, we have to start fucking filming this like right now, because like this, as soon as he got to the menu screen, he was just like, he had the Xbox controller in his hand, and he was going up and down and up and down on the thing, and he was just like, so is this going to be like a real-time strategy? And as soon as he said, is this going to be a real-time strategy, despite showing him the back of the box, I knew that we had to play it. But anyway, guys, the things that I would like to leave you with, because I can see the timer, and I'm going to get back to editing what's going to be coming up later on the channel. I've given you guys a few sneak peeks, but to give me more topics, and I'll try and have more people, what would you like me to talk about on the next podcast? I have an entire history and why I like, and I'll get into detail on every one of these topics. So, the topics I would like to provide you are my passions to begin with. So, that entails comic books, like I said earlier, anime and manga, pro wrestling, novels, or just plain like video games. And I can get into a long, long discussion with you guys, even if it's just by myself, because I'm slightly crazy, and I can talk to these for like ages and ages. So be sure to let me know what you would like to hear about, and I will, try and make it happen. So thank you for coming in on this prototype podcast, I guess. It was an amazing experience, and I had a lot of fun doing this. Anyway, I will catch you guys later, and I hope you have an awesome day. See you guys.